Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain. I have actually just finished my coffee. In between finishing one episode and starting this one, I drained my cup. And I am not going to go get some more because I do in fact want to sleep tonight. I did not sleep super well last night and I just ended up waking up at a weirdly early hour and not falling back asleep. That was very strange. So I snuggled with my puppies a whole bunch until they got tired of me, and then I got up and made coffee. So I've kind of been drinking coffee for quite a bit, and I probably need to go ahead and switch to like a lot of water. But switching gears to the books, and probably the reason why you're here, we are going to talk about the sequel to Yours for the Taking by Gabrielle Korn. Now, this is called The Shutouts, and it is book number 2. And it doesn't say so in the specific description of the book, and on Goodreads it doesn't say so. Like, very frequently you'll see like number 2 in the series or something of that nature kind of in the title. But I did notice as I was just kind of prepping for recording this episode, as I was looking at some of the reviews, I think that's why people were actually giving it like 3 or maybe 4 stars, is they didn't realize when they picked this one up that it was the second book in a series. I had, in fact, read Yours for the Taking and thought it was really, really well done. I do believe me and my podcast co-host Hannah did an episode in 2023 for Yours for the Taking, if not in early 2024. Thought it was a really fantastic book, very dystopian future, feministic view. However, there is a lot of queer LGBT representation, which just gives a fantastic perspective on this particular, what the world could look like if these sorts of kind of politics maybe were put into place. And honestly, it's just so very intriguing. Just the world is very rich, and Gabrielle Korn does a fantastic job with her narrative, with her writing style. The characters feel just real in a lot of different ways. And so I wanted to go ahead and bring you guys The Shutouts by Gabrielle Korn, which is the sequel to Yours for the Taking. Now, this book is expected December 3rd of 2024, and I'll probably release this sometime, it'll be early December, so it won't be on the 3rd, but it'll probably be the 5th or the 7th. I do try to do like every other day, and I do know that Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson will probably come out first, and then probably this one. So let's dive into the summary and see what we think. A brilliant queer dystopian novel from the author of Yours for the Taking. So see, even right there, it just tells you that it's from the author, but it doesn't tell you that this is kind of a follow-up. And I'll kind of explain why in a bit. Following a cast of characters on the margins of a strange and exclusive new society. So, just right there, that does not tell you, like, oh, okay, this is set in the same sort of world, this is set on a very similar timeline, or in a joining timeline. That's actually way down towards the bottom. So I think that's where a lot of people got a little confused, and we probably should have moved it up just so people could have been aware that it could have been a good idea to get the backstory from the first one. The year is 2041, and it's a dangerous time to be a woman driving across the United States alone. Deadly storms and uncontrollable wildfires are pummeling the country while political tensions are rising. But Kelly's on the road anyway. She desperately needs to get back to her daughter, who she left 7 years ago for a cause that she's no longer sure she believes in. Almost 40 years later, 40, another mother, Ava, and her daughter, Brooke, are on the run as well from the climate change relief program known as the Inside Project, where they've spent the last 22 years being treated as lab rats, where they encounter a woman from Ava's past on the side of the highway. The three continue on a journey that will take them into the depths of what remains of humanity in the wilderness. Blech. My tongue is getting all tangled up today. At the same time, way up north, weather conditions continue to worsen, and a settlement departs in search of greener pastures, leaving behind only 2 members, drawn together by a circumstance and a mystery they are destined to unravel together. Set in the world of Gabrielle Korn's Yours for the Taking, The Shutout tells the captivating stories of those who have been shut out from the inside, their fight to survive, and an interconnectedness larger than all of them. So this is considered sci-fi, dystopian fiction, LGBT, queer, adult, and lesbian. It is only about 400 pages in hardback, and I want to say... Now, I had the audiobook, and it was only, I think it's only about 7 hours. I feel like it went pretty quickly. Either that or I just consumed it very quickly. It didn't hardly take me any time at all. I guess maybe I'm getting used to Brandon Sanderson's 50 hour long books. I'm not sure. So a book that takes less than 15 hours feels like it's quick to me sometimes. So one of the things I do wish this book had kind of leaned into a little bit more is the fact that it is set in a continuing timeline, or part of it is set in a continuing timeline of Yours for the Taking, because we do have Ava and her daughter Brooke on the run from the project known as, or the relief program known as the Inside Project. That is what the book number 1, Yours for the Taking, is really all about. It is about a disastrous climate change has come upon society, and Ava is chosen to go, quote unquote, inside. I don't know if any of you have seen, I think it's Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone. But anyway, so I picture these insides as like huge, like neighborhood blocks, like very large neighborhood blocks, completely encapsulated, enclosed, where they are their own entire ecosystem, from gardening to water purification to laundry services. There's no one who drives or anything like that. They have their own way of getting like, it's not like natural sunlight, but it is like some other sort of like UV light source, so they can ensure that they get the appropriate kind of sun nutrient without actually getting sun. Because where they were in New York is now no longer very safe. But Ava is chosen to go inside. Well, her partner, Orchid, is not chosen to go inside. And Orchid and Ava had both decided that if they both weren't chosen, then they both weren't going in. They were not going to go in. But when the time comes, Orchid tells Ava that she needs to go, and Orchid does not, like, they separate. They go their separate ways. So Ava goes inside, and Orchid goes into the wilderness of Canada to try to kind of escape some of the more harsher climate change of what's happening more in the United States and stuff like that, with ice caps melting, like water rising, that sort of area. Now, Orchid was taught by her dad a lot of survival skills, and we do actually learn a lot more about that in this particular book, and kind of where some of that might have, like, what inspired that. And that's why book number 1 is so important, because I think you need book number 1 to really understand Ava's mindset about her and Orchid's relationship in the past and what kind of drove them apart, and her and Orchid's relationship now, and what's kind of preventing Ava from wanting to move forward and try again. Now, in my personal opinion, Ava's a little bit more in the wrong. In, again, my personal opinion, Ava seems to be the selfish one who's not able to kind of see it from Orchid's perspective. But again, that's me. It feels as though Ava has been coddled a lot now, and a lot of things did happen in book number 1 that were not great, but I'm just saying, their relationship wise, Ava does a lot of blaming and pointing fingers and stuff about Orchid always doing things, and I don't think that's fair to Orchid. Now, we get to some of the other aspects of this book where this summary talks about a person named Kelly. Now, I don't want to give too much away with regards to spoilers, but Kelly seems to be one of the people who started trying to help people on the outside figure out ways of survival before the inside projects really came to fruition. Her and her kind of rebel organization that she accidentally joined had ties and links to some higher ups in the government, and they saw this kind of coming down, so they bought some land in Canada in order to kind of create themselves a more or less compound to almost hoard resources. And it definitely turns into almost a hoarding of knowledge in a way. But that's one of the reasons Kelly leaves, is because she starts to see that this group that she's part of is very selfish in a lot of ways. They're not sharing it with the world the way she thought they were going to, with the people who are left on the outside. She only intended to be gone from her daughter for a very short period of time, for like, I think a week or two at the most, and she ends up being gone for about 7 years. Well, I'm not going to, again, give you too many spoilers on that particular aspect as well. You'll have to find out how that ties back to this particular group. But let's just say the group that Kelly joins does turn out to be very much a cult-like situation, where they pretty much, if you're part of them, you're part of them, and if you're not, you're not, and you don't really get to be let in or let out without kind of permission, and it does tend to lead to that cult-like mentality. Now, I'm going to scroll down here just a little bit to some of these other comments as well, because I saw some really good thoughts. I think it's still a very intriguing conversation. I really liked that the first book really did occur more on the inside, where we were very enclosed, encapsulated. Part of the book did take place kind of in the past as we were building these insides, these project inside sort of buildings, and the creator, who was really being incredibly selective with her choice of who she was going to put in there, being what I would say is discriminatory against who she was going to put in there, which of course is not what it was designed to do, but she thought she was doing it for a good reason, and I guess maybe she thought that's what she was doing, but I don't really see it as being a super great thing. And again, that's the conversation to be had, is I think you can argue both sides of it. And, like, is this the final book in the series? I don't know. I feel like there still could be more conversations to be had. Do we still know everything about, like, what led up to all of this? No, not really. Like, I do love that the first one was about all the insides, part of it being out in space, where they're still very isolated and cut off from everybody. Again, kind of keeping a purposeful tunnel vision. And then, like, some of them, like, landing in Australia. So Ava has a second daughter named July. And the problem is that Ava and Brooke being July's sister, are in Canada, like very northern part of Canada. And July was pretty much kidnapped from the Inside Project and taken to space where her, let's say, her biological mother was, because Ava was a surrogate and Ava didn't realize she was a surrogate for this particular lady's daughter. And so the lady wanted her daughter, and they came and they kidnapped her and took her up to space. Well, then they landed in Australia or like New Zealand or something, and now that's where they are. So they're separated by like a world away. And now in this particular time, travel is incredibly, incredibly difficult, if not nigh on impossible. It's one of those things where, they can talk to each other, but as time progresses, they talk to each other a little less and a little less. And we do see that they do grow a little older and things like that, a little more mature. And Brooke does like kind of get get like some love interests and things of that nature as well. But I think this book was very well done. I do like that we get a little bit more of the backstory of especially Orchid and how some of the survivors from the, I guess, outside of the project were able to survive using kind of some stolen technology. So very good thoughts on that one as well. I was just seeing a couple individuals on the Goodreads who, again, gave it 3 and 4 stars because they didn't didn't realize that this was a sequel to Yours for the Taking. And then this one particular person saying, while I've seen some people say this is a standalone, I would have to disagree. And I too would have to disagree. There is so much about the characters and who they are in this book that really you need to understand what happened to them in the first book to know what's going on in this book. And I think that is incredibly important. Like that nuance of character dynamic is so incredibly important. So, you can read it by itself, but I think you're going to be missing a lot, and I think that's where you're not going to be able to enjoy it as much is if you don't understand a lot of that. But thank you so much for sticking around with me and listening to me talk about The Shutouts by Gabrielle Korn. Again, book number 2 of what I would say is Yours for the Taking, book number 2. It is for me a sequel. It is not a standalone. Again, my personal thoughts, and it seems to be a couple other people's personal thoughts as well. So I'm just putting that out there. I just simply think it would have been reviewed better had people been forewarned more clearly that they would have understood it better and the character dynamics had they known to go get the first one. But thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you. I hope you'll like and subscribe. I hope you'll stick around. And I hope that I will see you guys on the next page. And have a wonderful holiday season with whatever you may be doing. Stay warm and drink lots of warm beverages.